All right, we're going to talk about a mental model that is so powerful it can seriously change how you see, well, pretty much everything, from your relationships to your job to global issues. It's called systems thinking. You know that feeling, right? Where you're just stuck. That diet you keep trying, that budget you can never seem to stick to, or maybe that same old argument you have again and again. You think you've solved it, but then, boom, it's back. What if I told you the problem isn't you? It's not about your willpower. It's about the way you're looking at the problem.
See, most of us, we're taught to think in a straight line. This causes that. A leads to B, problem, solution. It's simple, it's tidy, and a lot of the time, it's just plain wrong. Systems thinking asks us to do something different. It says stop looking for the straight line and start seeing the messy, hidden web of connections that's really running the show.
Let's go back to that diet example. Linear thinking is simple. Just eat less, exercise more, and you'll lose weight. Makes sense, right? But it completely ignores the actual system. When you cut calories, what happens? Your body's system kicks in. You get hungrier. Your metabolism actually slows down to conserve energy. You might get stressed, which makes you want to eat more. Suddenly, your own solution is creating a backlash because you're fighting this complex system, not just a simple cause and effect problem. Okay, so how do we actually start to see the world this way? Well, the very first step, the biggest shift you have to make, is to move your focus. Stop looking at the individual things and start looking at the connections between them. I love this quote that Donella Meadows uses. It's so simple but so profound. The focus is on the and. The magic, the behavior, the real story of any system. It isn't just in the parts. It's in the relationships, the interactions, the and that links them all together. For instance, if I asked you, hey, what is a university? Your linear brain would probably just spit out a list of the parts, right? You'd say, well, it's professors and students and buildings, books, administrators. You're just listing off the components. It's like a pile of bricks, not a house. But a systems thinker sees it completely differently. It's not a list of things. It's a network of knowledge that is constantly flowing between all those parts. Whoa. Suddenly it's not a static pile of stuff anymore. It's alive, it's dynamic. The whole point is the flow. That little shift in perspective, that's everything. So here's the more formal definition, but it's really just saying the same thing. A system is way more than just the sum of its parts. Think about it. A football team isn't just 11 players and a ball. That's a list. The team is the plays, the communication, the strategy, the trust. It's all the invisible connections that let them actually play the game and win. Right. So if the connections are what matter, what actually makes a system do anything? What's the engine driving all this behavior? Well, the answer comes down to something called feedback loops. These are the engines running under the hood of literally every system you can think of. Donella Meadows had this fantastic analogy with a slinky. Think about it. If I drop a book, it just thuds on the floor. But if I drop a slinky, it does that cool, bouncy slinky thing. Now, what makes it bounce? It's not my hand. My hand just let it go. The bounce comes from its structure, from the way it's coiled. And it's the same with systems. Persistent problems like poverty or climate change don't just happen because of one-off events. They happen because of the underlying structure. So the first type of engine is what we call a reinforcing loop. This is your classic snowball effect. The bigger the snowball gets, the faster it picks up more snow, and the bigger it gets. It's exponential growth. The more money in your bank account, the more interest you earn, which gives you more money. More rabbits lead to more baby rabbits, which leads to, well, you get the idea. Things can get out of control fast. And the other engine is a balancing loop. These are the complete opposite. They are goal-seeking and stabilizing. Just picture a hot cup of coffee on your desk. Its goal is to reach room temperature. So the bigger the gap between its temperature and the room's, the faster it cools down, until eventually it hits that equilibrium. Your body does this all day long to keep your temperature right around 98.6. These loops keep things in check. Okay, now we get to the really practical stuff. Because when you start combining these reinforcing and balancing loops in certain ways, they create these classic recognizable problems, or traps, that we get stuck in all the time without even realizing it. First up, there's the escalation trap. This is an arms race. Think of two gas stations across the street from each other. One lowers their price by a cent, so the other one lowers theirs by 2 cents. Then the first one responds, and on it goes. Each one is just reacting to the other, locked in this reinforcing loop that just spirals downwards until somebody goes out of business. Then there's the famous tragedy of the commons. Imagine a pasture that's shared by a bunch of farmers. For me, as an individual farmer, it makes perfect sense to add one more cow to the field. I get all the benefit from that extra cow, but the cost, the extra grass it eats, is shared by everybody. The problem is, everyone else is thinking the exact same way. So everyone adds one more cow, and pretty soon the pasture is destroyed and the whole system collapses for everyone. And a third one is called shifting the burden. You can basically think of this as the addiction trap. Let's say a farmer has a pest problem. The quick fix is to spray a bunch of pesticides, and yeah, it works, for a while. But that quick fix also kills off the natural predators and damages the soil, which weakens the system's own ability to deal with pests. So over time, you become more and more dependent on the short-term chemical fix, while the real problem just gets worse.
So we've seen the traps, and it might sound a bit gloomy, but here's the really amazing part of all this. The beauty of systems thinking isn't just about spotting the problems. It's about finding the exact right place to intervene to create massive change with surprisingly little effort. It's about finding your leverage point.
A leverage point. It's like the trim tab on a gigantic ship's rudder. It's this tiny little piece, but by moving it, you can turn the entire massive rudder, which in turn steers the whole ship. It's that one spot in a system where a small, well-placed push can ripple out and change everything. And the craziest part is, these spots are often totally not where you'd expect them to be. Let me tell you this incredible story from Denella Meadows. There was this housing development in the Netherlands where all the houses were basically identical, but they had one tiny difference. In some of the houses, the electric meter was installed down in the basement, totally out of sight. And in the others, it was put right in the main front hallway, where you'd walk past it every single day. So what happened? Well, the results were stunning. The houses where the meter was visible in the hallway used, on average, 30% less electricity. 30%! Think about that. No price change, no government program, no new technology, just moving a little box. So why did this work? Because the leverage point wasn't about money or rules. It was about information. By simply making that feedback loop visible, by giving the homeowners real-time data on their energy use, the system could correct itself. The families could finally see the consequences of their actions in the moment, and that changed everything. And this is not just a neat little anecdote. This is how real, complex problems are being tackled today. What you're looking at now is a real-life systems map used for policymaking. Each one of those dots is a factor in a community's well-being. By mapping out how they all connect and influence each other, policymakers can stop just treating symptoms and find the true leverage points to create real, lasting, positive change. So once you start seeing the world this way, you can't really unsee it. You start moving from blaming people to looking at the structure of the system. You go from just putting out fires to actually finding those leverage points. So the only real question left is, what system in your life, your health, your career, your family, are you going to see differently now?